In August, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, also known as DESE, raised the MCAS requirements for the class of 2026. This after schools saw a drop in test scores during the COVID-19 pandemic. Western Mass News reporter Glenn Kittle is getting answers and seeing what this means for educators going forward.
Raising the passing bar now, we suggest, which is but one measure of high standards, will do more harm to the very students who have already been disproportionately harmed by the COVID pandemic.
State Senator Joanne Comerford expressing her concerns over raising MCAS requirements during a meeting this past August. Students are now required to earn a scaled score of at least a 486 on English language arts and math and at least a 470 on science, technology, and engineering tests. The old thresholds were 472 for English and 486 for math. Now educators will start prepping freshman classes to meet the new scoring standards come 2026. Modesto Montero, executive director of the Libertas Academy in Springfield, tells Western Mass News while they are up to the challenge, they recognize the class of 2026 may have a hard time adjusting.
There are two things that come to mind. The first is the timing of raising the standard. We are just starting the recovery process coming out of a really challenging couple of years in response to a global pandemic that has led to some significant learning loss. The second piece is I want to ensure that we're not just thinking about raising the standards for our students, but we're also thinking through how are we providing the right supports for them.
Montero's concerns are backed by the numbers. Comparing current high schoolers to 3rd through 8th graders, while students in grades 3 through 8 showed a 6% increase in meeting or exceeding expectations in math, those in grade 10 showed a 2% decrease. English scores took a decline across the board, showing a 5% decrease in students in grades 3 through 8 and a 6% dip in grade 10. The Massachusetts Teacher Association says over the past 10 years, the MCAS has been responsible for over 50,000 high school graduate hopefuls becoming high school dropouts. President of the MTA, Max Page, tells Western Mass News raising the standards could contribute to that statistic.
And we think the MCAS is a very limited and blunt tool for measuring all the things that we hope to happen in schools. So we were opposed to lifting the scores even higher, which will disadvantage even more students every year.
One concern Page brings up is a potential change in curriculum. He fears teachers will have to adjust their education to provide more MCAS prep in an attempt to keep up with the new requirements.
The MCAS already forces a narrowing of curriculum and also applies pressure to school districts, to schools, to individual educators to focus on teaching to the test. And it's one of the biggest complaints our members of the Massachusetts Teachers Association have.
Montero tells Western Mass News keeping a balanced educational environment is crucial to getting kids prepared for life after high school.
It isn't just about doing well on MCAS, but it's getting our students ready for post-secondary plans, right? So academic supports, ensuring that they have college, career readiness on their mind to ensure that they're set up for success.
While schools have until 2026 to prepare kids for the higher score requirements, one school seems ahead of the curve. Hamden Charter received some of the best MCAS scores in the state. CEO of Hamden Charter, Tarkan Topçoğlu, tells Western Mass News how they're prepping their students.
We started with a diagnostic test at the beginning of the year, find out the student weaknesses to target, and on each marking period, periodically we check our students where they are and how they do, and we address their weaknesses with our in-class strategies and tutoring programs that we do in our study halls, after school, on Saturdays, and online.
Nicole Goodard is a teacher at Hamden Charter. She says changes to the MCAS aren't new, and while she understands the concerns of students and parents, she adds it's another challenge of preparing kids for the next level.
I would say, as we see these changing metrics and what the skills are, the 21st century needs, we've been responding to that and would be responding to that with or without the MCAS telling us what that looks like.
The new requirements will be in place for the classes of 2026 through 2030. Officials will review the standards again after that and determine whether raising the scoring standards was the right decision. Reporting in Springfield, Glenn Kittle, Western Mass News.